Ballpark Nation presents
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Here come the Astros, burning.
First pitch. And Alex finds it to the left center field at the base hit. Pitcher around third is coming home. Easy up with the baseball. The throw to the plate. Not in time. Astros win. Astros win.
One every time.
Alvarez hits a high drive center field. Veer leans back. This game is turned upside down.
And the pitch is lifted to right by Castellanos. Long run for Tucker over toward the line and foul territory. Makes the catch, and the Houston Astros do it again. 2022 World Series champions.
Welcome to Go Astros, your look at the two-time World Series champions from three guys who have been here since Art Howe had hair.
Here come the Astros, breathing orange fire. Here come the Astros.
I'll be honest, guys, it was going to be a little hard to start this show with any degree of energy. Yeah, I'm James Christopher. There's Andy Zip. I don't know where he is. And there's Brian Arbor, I never remember if he lives in New York or New Jersey, but I'll be honest, guys. I don't know how to muster any energy for this because we didn't sign Blake Snell, except two things happened. One, probably least importantly, Andy has been named into some sort of tournament for Astros. I was on it last year. I don't know what I did in the year. But, guys, Joe Elliott, lead singer of Def Leppard, replied to my comment on Facebook. Let's go. Gentlemen, how you doing? Brian, what's up?
Hey, I have, we are the generation of Def Leppard, and, the drummer in Def Leppard had only one arm, and that is one of the great feats in human, engineering.
Yes, absolutely. Andy.
The human body is an amazing thing. I wish we had more of them that could pitch in the Houston organization.
One arm or two.
Either way.
I mean, that's obviously what we're going to jump into. For those of you who are under a rock, there were lots of reports about whether or not the Astros were going to sign Blake Snell. Nothing's definitive because what has happened was the Astros were the primary suitor, and then the Giants were a long shot, and now the Giants are the primary suitor, and the Astros are the long shot, which tells me that Boris is negotiating with himself through the media. But
the Rockies are going to sign him, I think, is the
Rockies, right? Free weed can be part of his contract.
If Mike Hampton taught us anything, it's that the school system in Denver is superior, and that's a good reason to sign as a free agent there. Certainly not for anything baseball related.
Not for anything baseball related. And now their weed is legal. So, but guys, the Astros did take a hit this weekend. I don't know how much of a hit it really was, but Jose Urquidy left with dreaded elbow discomfort, which turned into forearm tightness, which we've all heard this story before. The Yankees are dealing with it now as well, except they're dealing with a bit more high-profile player. Andy Jose Urquidy, let's be honest, likely done for the year. He was a bubble guy for all of us on the rotation anyway, so where do you sit as far as this being a major impact on the team?
I mean, I don't know that he was a bubble guy for me because he was one of our more experienced options coming into the season. He did not have a good 2023. And I think, some of that was based on injury to the same arm, to the same elbow, and he chose not to have surgery at that point, chose to rest it for, I think, 12, 13 weeks, whatever that was, came back and was slightly more effective than he was before he went out. It's a blow just from a depth standpoint. The Astros are down Urquidy, and I think, injury being what it is, even if he's going to avoid surgery, he's going to be out 4 months. And again, you don't know how effective he can possibly be coming back from that kind of layoff. You add that to Luis Garcia and Lance McCullers Jr., and it's a problem for the Astros because you're counting now on Hunter Brown taking that next step and being a guy who can consistently throw 160-plus innings. You're counting on Framber Valdez and Christian Javier bouncing back, and you're counting on Justin Verlander coming back at some point. I'm not worried about Verlander, and I don't mention that other than to say he's not starting the season with the team. Yeah. He's going to be at least 15 days delayed based on the rules. But it's a blow from a depth perspective because now you're looking at Hunter Brown and JP France and a couple of other guys maybe you were hoping not to have to count on as being starters for the first part of the season.
Yeah, Brian, I want you to piggyback on Urquidy, but also addressing the fact that now if nothing changes with the roster, the strategy is there's 3 guys coming at the All-Star break, maybe. Look, I think we should have all confidence our Garcia will come back because he's not demonstrated that he can't. But we all know that Lance McCullers has an issue with that. And Arlie points out on our comments that if Snell wanted to win a World Series, he would sign with the Astros. Amen. But Brian, the loss of Urquidy, what does that do for you as far as confidence level, and how do you see those innings being filled in?
Yeah, I'm not as everything sort of Andy mentioned about how the pitching staff has to work is true regardless of Jose Urquidy's elbow, forearm, or whatever body part euphemism PR is using and how much discomfort he has. Hey, they're relying on Hunter Brown. Hunter Brown by pitched in some bad luck last year. He also made some bad luck in the second half of the season. Both Framber Valdez and Christian Javier pitched poorly in the second half of last season. The team needs both of them to pitch better this year. And again, that's true regardless of what happens at the bottom of the rotation. The bigger issue here is that this pushes Ronel Blanco into the opening rotation. And I assume the next guy up is Spencer Arrighetti, who is, the best pitching prospect on a team without any really good pitching prospects. Now, last year, one of the reasons I sort of think this is people keep saying the Astros didn't have enough pitching depth last year. It turned out the pitching depth was fine because JP France was a lot better. He was able to come in and, and Brandon Bielak had a handful of starts and he pitched well in those starts. They're not Cy Young contenders, but hey, guy up from AAA, JP France gave you as much as you possibly could have expected, and certainly I think more than we said when we learned he was coming in the rotation last May. And so it's a similar thing with Arrighetti. Maybe he will exceed our expectations, but again, there's not much margin for error at this point. And the weird thing about Verlander is he keeps throwing but not advancing to the next stage.
But he feels great. He feels great.
So, maybe that's just they're ramping him up slowly. And, Andy, you made the point before, if they just keep him at 15 days and he pitches 32 starts instead of 34, and they get those extra couple starts in the playoffs, absolutely fine, right? And, again, so, they're perfectly fine to delay him. But again, the next guy up is the big issue here, and we're relying on, Ronel Blanco's look good in spring training, but I'd like to note that it's spring training. This could just be, even if they look good, just could be, they could be Justin Durden. The 2 best weeks of his season last year were in March, which is not helpful in the end.
Well, I have more faith in Ronel Blanco, at least being a stopgap, than the alternative in the organization, because you're now starting to talk about Sean Dubin potentially getting starts in the major leagues again. That's not a thing that should happen for a team that hopes to get to the World Series. It happened last year, and we almost made it. But there's a gap there. There's a gap not from a body standpoint, but a gap from a quality standpoint. And I think that's why, beyond just the name recognition, you saw so many Astros fans getting really excited when it felt like we were close to getting Blake Snell.
Well, but here's the thing on that, right? And I want to dive into what's next, because when we signed Hader, I think the presumptive opinion on this show was that there would be no more additions. I've always thought that wasn't necessarily the case. I think that, or one of the things that we should be real about this show is at least the 3 of us understand that the GM of the Astros knows at least as much as us. Most shows think they know less. So we see those deficiencies. I think Dana Brown sees those deficiencies. One of the things I took from the Blake Snell signing, or this Blake Snell pursuit, I should say, is they are aware of the problem and they're going to address the problem. The problem being addressed might not be as sexy as Blake Snell, Might not be as sexy as sort of a Jordan Montgomery, but I don't think that the Astros are going to be content going into into the season with this being the rotation. Andy, do you take that same kind of assumption, or do you feel like this was
that Dana Brown is smarter than us? Yes, I do agree that Dana Brown is smarter than us. I don't know that Snell's the answer, even if that was to come about. And it's easy to get excited about a Cy Young winner joining your rotation.
But he doesn't eat innings. I mean, Arlie suggested Montgomery, who I would have preferred anyway.
It's not even in a vacuum. I'd pick Montgomery. The negligible difference in Snell's betterness as a pitcher to Montgomery is completely negated by the idea that you're losing draft picks in a farm system that can't afford to lose draft picks. You're losing international signing money and again, a farm system that can't afford to lose options. And you're with a guy, you're potentially tying yourself to a guy that has made it pretty clear that I don't really want to be there, but you're my best option right now. Montgomery solves the same amount of problems that Snell would solve. He has a history of being healthier for longer in a season. He's probably going to be cheaper, and he doesn't cripple you for the next couple of years. And the fans who are clamoring for Snell and saying, I don't care about draft picks and I don't care about prospects, they're the same ones who will bitch when we're not doing anything the next offseason because we've tied ourselves to a guy that maybe only pitched half the season, and now he's opting into his $33 million a year contract. So I think there are other options. I think Dana Brown will continue to look to tweak this team going forward based on the situation that they're in. Even with the lineup that they have currently, if nothing else changes between now and, let's say, Memorial Day, this is still a team that should be contending for the AL West division and one of the top records in the American League. And if you're a playoff team, you've got a little bit of room to wiggle on what kind of tweaks you can make because there will be more players available at the middle of the season than there are right now.
Look, I am not a guy that says I don't care about the farm system. However, I would make the signing because I do feel like, at least in baseball, not like the NFL, there are other ways to build a team other than just purely through the draft. So while I do, you want to cut me off? Is that what you want to do now?
I do, and that's because I'm going to blame the internet delay that I'm experiencing. But I think there are other ways, but we don't know that Jim Crane is ever going to be super comfortable with those other ways. And we limit ourselves with this 5-year contract.
But I do think we should get out of the case of looking into Jim Crane's head, because we didn't think he would make a haters type signing. We didn't think he would even. So we've all said he's not going to go over this, and then he goes over it. So I think we have to, first of all,
he's very cheap, Jim.
Yeah, well, I have heard he's very cheap. Brian, before you get to your take on it, we also have another question on the comments about somebody like Mike Clevenger who's available. Does that get the Astros better than having your Urquidy in that spot? And then does he prove to be a better bridge to Lance or Luis? So if you could wrap that answer into your question, Brian.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to do that because I was going to bring that up. Michael Lorenzen is another free agent who is out there who probably you could get for a 1-year contract. Probably you could get for a decent number of incentives in that contract at this point. One question about all of these free agents is on what day could they actually first pitch for the Astros?
Right, exactly. We saw this with what's his nuts from a few years ago.
Yeah, with Jake Odorizzi, I think.
Yes, what's his nuts?
Yeah. Who just signed with the Rays and may end up on their opening day roster or shortly thereafter. So those are also possibilities that are cheaper, and frankly, they may be scouring the DFA market for players who are out of options, who could be options in the starting rotation, and they will have 3 open spots on the 40-man roster based on 60-man IL placements, because they will put McCullers, Garcia, and Kendall Graveman on the 60-day IL. And so that's 3 spots. That may go to one of the non-roster invitees to the bullpen, but that's still 3 spots. So that could be a place where they're looking for another depth option for the starting rotation, either, someone who's DFA'd or someone who another team, is their 7th starter and willing to get rid of it. It is hard to get pitching because everybody needs pitching, right? We had this, awesome opening day of Justin Verlander versus Garrett Cole.
Yeah.
And now we're going to get Framber Valdez versus Nestor Cortez, which isn't a bad pitching matchup, but is not quite the same thing. Pitchers get hurt. Players get hurt. And in some ways, there's only so much you can do to protect against that because, whatever, both the Yankees and one of my fantasy teams are definitely suffering from Garrett Cole being injured.
Yeah, and I mean, we all know that injury could also escalate to something much bigger. Yeah. Andy, thoughts on Clevenger, but also the idea that one of the benefits of making a signing like this, or even like Brian said with Lorenzen, is like it's also going to help you backfill middle relief, which is another really big issue that the Astros are going to have as far as eating up bullpen innings.
I think a pitcher like Clevenger makes a lot of sense. I think Mike Clevenger makes no sense for the Astros based on the perception of who Mike Clevenger is as a human being.
And what he said about the Astros since 2020.
Well, that's why I mentioned Lorenzen.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is no matter how much we want to pretend that Trevor Bauer and Mike Clevenger don't have baggage attached to them, they do. The Astros aren't going to sign those guys. It would be highly surprising for the Astros to make contract offers to either of those individuals based on what happened when they acquired Osuna in the 2019 season. It was a PR issue for the Astros. It's a road I do not think Jim Crane wants to go down again. And again, we're in Jim Crane's head. But there's a reason that Mike Clevenger's still sitting out there. There's a reason no team has contacted Trevor Bauer about a major league contract this year.
And now I think he would pay you to pitch, I think, at this point, right?
Yeah. I mean, and he may show up to my kid's birthday party for just enough scratch.
And two points here on Jim Crane. One is Jim Crane had to sit through a press conference and get yelled at by journalists based on the Roberto Osuna and the Brandon Taubman situation.
Oh yeah, and if you remember,
he doesn't really go to press conferences where it's happy.
And in many ways too, Brian, the biggest thing that came out of that report that has any kind of actual merit was the culture problem of the Astros, not necessarily what happened on the field with receptacles.
Yeah. And I'll just note this, Trevor Bauer has given no major league team an indication that someone won't have to go to a press conference and explain his behavior in the future. There's no sort of sense that he has any sort of humility over what's happened or given anyone assurances that this won't happen again. Clevenger is a little bit different here. A little bit different. I don't think he's as big as a jackass as Trevor Bauer is. Everyone knows Trevor Bauer is a jackass. If he's winning you the Cy Young, you're willing to put up with the jackass.
Well, and also
that's a Roger Clemens level jackass.
That's
We're
right.
talking about a completely different type of animal there.
Yes.
Clevenger's issues are around child support and abandonment and some other things, and that's fine. In the scale of things, I mean, the Texans just acquired Joe Mixon, and I'm not thrilled about that either.
Yeah.
That was a whole lot more serious issue.
You didn't really care about it though.
Not pleased. Anyway, no, it's interesting though. Looking at the schedule for the first 30 days of the season, the Astros, even with their issues right now from a rotation standpoint, aren't going to be appreciably behind the 8 ball with any team they play in April except for the Braves. The Cubs rotation is not better than the Astros. The Royals rotation is not better than the Astros. The Rangers rotation, who we play 6 times, is not better than the Astros. Maybe the Blue Jays.
The Yankees rolling in with the rotation they're going to roll in.
The Yankees didn't know who was going to start opening day, and I don't think really still do. I think they're pushing Cortez to be ready. They didn't know who was going to be starting opening day 3 days ago. So everybody's got issues with their starting rotation. To Brian's point, everybody's constantly looking for pitching.
The Rangers may have 3 of their 4 starting infielders on the IL to start the season.
And if they can keep.
Boy, I feel so bad for them, man. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to Mass on Wednesday, and I'm going to light a candle for the Arlington Rangers. I feel so awful. That's sarcasm for those of you just listening. Hey, now listen, one of the things that Andy threw at me just now was a segue. We call that in the movie business a transition. You mentioned Roger Clemens, and Andy and I were there to see Roger Clemens' last outing with your Savanna Bananas. Andy, we got to go to the Savanna Bananas game. I think we were both cautiously optimistic about the experience. I rate the experience as mostly positive, but I felt like it was a made for social media event. I don't know that I felt the engagement. I don't think it was as much fun as what was being sold to me. You know me though, Andy, part of me gets into my head about being angry about what people say off the field. And I hate the fact that the premise of the Bananas is that baseball's boring. Let's make it unboring. I don't think baseball's boring. Clearly I wouldn't be doing the show now. Overall though, what was your takeaway of your Bananas experience? Did you go bananas for it?
Boo. It was fine. And I know we're going to get a bunch relative to our audience.
Our audience is all old men like us. So
yeah, people love the Savanna Bananas. And I think people that really love the Savanna Bananas are sitting in the lower bowl of a stadium like Minute Maid Park or at a 12,000 seat stadium in Savanna. I don't even think this Savanna stadium's that big. Was it 8,000 seats or something like that?
Yeah.
But I think as a concept, it's great. I, as a kid who grew up enjoying the Harlem Globetrotters, it's the baseball equivalent of that. In a major league stadium, they've got to tweak that show a little bit. And there's a couple things that I thought were just weird. And this is, again, old man yelling at cloud things. Why not just use the ticketing system that the Astros or whatever major league park?
Let me give some background to the audience. We have a very good friend who does another baseball show who I will not out, who was there and she was at a Bananas game at a minor league park. And even she could see those problems coming with a big stadium before she even got there. So basically you had to use their web portal to get to your tickets. They discouraged screen grabs. So essentially you got 40,000 people trying to log onto the internet at one time. And then they only had 2 entrances into Minute Maid Park open, which meant we were literally wrapped around buildings in downtown. So, and then they were not taking tickets. They were just letting people in because they were so overwhelming.
Well, and the bigger problem to me beyond all that is it was general admission seating in a 42,000 seat stadium.
But general-ish, because they gave us tickets where my season tickets are.
Yeah,
I thought we should have had a good experience and didn't.
Yeah, there were it was sectioned off a little bit, but still you saw more people, and I think it's confusing to crowds in 2024. The whole concept of general admission, because, based on a concert in Cincinnati in 1979 where people got trampled, they don't do that anymore. There are very few general admission events of that scale that happen anymore. That was the first thing that was weird. The second thing was weird that they didn't plan for was everybody trying to access the website at once to get their tickets, which, guess what? The website stopped working for a lot of people. So the high security environment that you're used to going to Minute Maid Park was defeated by the idea of me saying, hey, I've got tickets, but my phone isn't pulling up your website. Oh, we'll just go in. I looked at it. It's fine. And we literally walked up to a teenager after that and said, she said we could go in. And he goes, okay. And we went in. The end. But beyond the logistics part of it, my issues were more that I think it plays better in a smaller stadium. If you're going to play a major league stadium, though, you've got to get a better acoustic setup.
Understand how the acoustics work.
Yeah, and you've got to make graphics to explain what you're doing because the acoustics aren't going to be as good as what you get in a smaller park where people are paying attention. This isn't a thing that happens in real baseball, but in Savanna Bananas baseball, they have a whole separate set of rules that the guy, Pickles, I guess, sat there and read to no one because nobody could hear him, but there was no corresponding graphic up on the board. So Jeb and I, who I think most of it, we're fairly intelligent, we could pick things up, we're sitting there having to teach ourselves what the hell was going on. Yeah. So one of the first things you notice is that if a pitcher walks a batter, every fielder on the field has to touch the ball before they can get the runner out, or the runner can advance that entire time. It's more confusing than I'm even trying to explain. But if you have no idea what's going on, you have no idea what's going on. When Josh Reddick got an RBI at the bottom of the first or second inning and they just stopped playing, we had no idea why until we realized, oh, they play for points and not runs, and you're just trying to win an inning like it's 1984 Continental Basketball League action. So there's just some
shout out to the Albany Patroons.
Yeah.
I have no idea what either of you are talking about.
Minor league NBA basketball.
Oh boy, I'm fired up for that.
So It's a fun concept. I think it'd be fun, a more fun concept in a smaller stadium. I don't discourage anybody from going, but I think the Bananas need to tweak their presentation for a larger park. I think that would make it a better experience. The logistical piece, 100%, but just the show preparation part. And this was, to be fair, their first foray into a large format stadium. I assume they're going to get better because it behooves them to. So I don't think it's a waste of your time, but it's not baseball.
Well, and I also think too, part of the issue with the logistics, of course, is that they were talking over their own echo because they didn't understand how to wait for all the sound to settle. But also, pretty much all it is dance numbers. I mean, let's be honest, that's what it is. Now, Brian, there was something fun that did happen that you wanted to talk about today, and that was the spring breakout. Did I just do a Gloria Estefan reference? Miami Sound Machine? Huh?
You did jazz fingers, so does it really matter what you said?
Come on, everybody. Let's do the conga now through the here. Yeah. On sort of a different bit of, let's have fun with baseball. I want to say nice things about the spring breakout series, which has, one, attracted a lot of attention on at least my professional feeds of sort of baseball writers who spend a lot of time at these games, because it's been hey, they even got it right the first game. The first at-bat was Paul Skeens, #1 pick in last year's draft, versus Jackson Holliday, #1 pick in the previous year's draft. It's been a place to take attention and put it on, one, baseball itself, which Major League Baseball doesn't do enough of.
Right.
And criticize them before it began. So let's praise them here, because they actually said, hey, let's put some focus on baseball. Let's put some focus on the future of baseball, and let's put it at a time. Okay, spring breakout's a terrible name, but whatever. Let's put it at a time when the middle of March and spring training is that point of you realize, like, oh God, we still got multiple more weeks of this before we actually get to the stuff we want to see. So it has been, to me, it's a small thing, but it has been a very nice place to focus baseball fans' attention and baseball writers' attention to, hey, the future of the game, really good players, a chance to sort of highlight them. And again, it highlights something in baseball. So, hey, all three of us have criticized Major League Baseball, and deservedly so, for their marketing and not caring about baseball enough. So
that's a
they've
great
actually done
point.
the opposite here, and it's worth at least a shout out.
That's an absolutely great point, because we talked about how we all know that certain markets get covered, but the idea is that we've always said Major League Baseball should market their players better to start to give fans, even the most diehard fans are paying attention to this, but start giving them an introduction to some of these young stars. It can't be a bad thing. And Andy, I don't mind the name Spring Breakout.
The name didn't bother me. The fact that it wasn't televised,
there's that
didn't bother me. And so when we talk about Major League Baseball stepping on their own, let's just say feet. Well, we'll say feet.
You say dick.
It's a family show.
Does anybody besides us watch the show later? Does anybody? No, my wife doesn't.
Right. Major League Baseball steps on their own dick constantly, and especially when it comes to selling its own product. They have their own channel that's available on many things. They have their own streaming platform. There is no reason that something you're trying to promote shouldn't be at least streamed visually to the people who would want to watch it. It would not cost them anything extra, because every one of these teams has a production crew sitting in one of the ballparks. And so it's just a matter of somebody not thinking that this is worth putting on the air. If you want to promote things in 2024, you've got to put them visually in front of people to be able to see. The fact that the Astros and Cardinals played a fairly exciting baseball game, it was a pitcher's duel, but it was a baseball game yesterday, and nobody could watch it. That's a problem. If you have a product and you're excited about this product, and to Brian's point, professional baseball people are excited about this concept, sell the damn concept and put it out there for people to consume. As it is now, I'm reading an article, which is great, but it's not the same.
It's not 1985.
No, and that's it. There's so much of the approach, and I know this is something that people who listen to the show frequently are tired of me talking about. Baseball does not know how to sell its product. They do not know how to market its product. And I don't understand how they can't just hire literally kids that do TikTok. Here's Old Man Cloud ranting. There are kids who do TikTok that could sell your product better than you sell it. Take advantage of them.
Facts. Yeah. All right. Well, we have one more topic to talk
Before
about.
it's banned.
We have one more topic to talk about before we say adios for the day. We had a bunch of Astros players released today. It's always sad when you see these releases go out because, one guy that we actually had supported through the Adopt a Minor Leaguer program, Peyton Plumlee, was released today. But Forrest Whitley wasn't. I know, Brian, you had some Forrest Whitley thoughts.
Yeah, so Forrest Whitley has been optioned. He won't be on the opening day roster. He's been optioned down to AAA. Hey, guys, what's the difference between Forrest Whitley and Kate Middleton?
Oh, my God, I don't know.
No, there's more evidence that Kate Middleton is alive right now.
I don't know how we continue that.
It's funny. It's topical.
Yeah. Do we have to worry about the British Secret Service coming after us?
I would take a virtually altered Forrest Whitley on the mound for the Astros at this point.
Yeah, these people aren't good at Photoshop, so I think searching us down is the least of our problems.
Oh, no. According to the Today Show this morning, Kate did it herself, and that's why it was a little flawed.
Yeah, that's the rumor. She did it herself now.
Because, the Royals are known for doing things themselves, like digital editing.
I'll just say this here. The royal family exists to provide entertainment for no good reason to the rest of the world, and this has really been... people say she's not doing her job, but I think she is.
I just never once thought for a second we'd have royal conversation on this show. Now, remember, I'm of the opinion that on July 4, 1776, I didn't have to give a crap about them anymore, but I like that we brought this up. And you know what? Kate Middleton, whether
Middleton
alive or not,
Kate Middleton will be back by Easter, and I believe will be in Kansas City's rotation by then.
That sounds good. All right, that is going to wrap up the show. Brian, any final thoughts from you?
So I am I am really excited to set my alarm later this week and watch the Dodgers and Padres in Korea because it will be real, actual baseball. Annoyed when I have to go back to the fake stuff, and then of course really excited for opening day. Which takes too long to get here, but it's close to being here.
All right. I know I am got a couple of things. One, we are still raising money for Ballpark Nation. Almost there. So thank you for everybody who has helped us out. We're almost to our goal of 5K. We are also like less than 2 weeks from my first time at an Astros game as a season ticket holder. Yes, Andy gets to soil my seats before I get there. And last, but certainly not least, Andy Zip has been drafted to participate in the Astros Twitter bracket, so make sure you vote for him. As I recall, I went pretty far last year.
I have no idea what this is.
I was in it last year, and I remember going pretty far, but of course, no one's going to beat Archbishop DeShays. And honestly, Andy, if I have to vote between you and him, I'm probably going to vote for him.
I'd vote for him because I don't know what this is, but people like you. People don't know who I am. And
I don't know. Maybe they don't like me anymore.
I was surprised that I had eight things on my Twitter this morning going, oh, you have notifications. I never have 8 notifications on Twitter. What is that? I'm happy to be nominated, I guess. I'm just here to help the team, and God willing, sometimes it rains.
I'll just say this as one of these pikers who doesn't get in the bracket. Your false humility is really right there.
I literally have no idea what this is. So good. I hope I win.
I was in it and got kicked out, so I don't know what I did, but I
guess it's like the NCAA tournament. Sometimes you're going to be in, sometimes you're not, and you fire the coach.
To fire me?
10 days till actual baseball. That's all I got, and then we can stop hearing about the warm feelings coming from the Orioles and Phillies camps that affect power rankings before the season starts.
All right, everybody, we're back here next week. Till next time, go Stros.
Go Stros.
Good job.